How are you doing? Does everyone have a fan? You've had some water, had some food? Well, thanks so much for joining and waiting the 8 extra minutes, but it's been an exciting COP so far, day two. Um, Good to see many of you joining us for this morning's session. I'm Mayuri Ghosh. I'm the Managing Director for the Clinton Global Initiative. I lead our climate resilience and sustainability efforts. Um, Pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the Clinton Global Initiative today. I want to start by thanking our partners, UN Climate Change, for being a strong partner to CGI, for hosting us today at this pavilion, and generally, continuing to lead the charge on climate. So thank you to UNFCCC. Also want to start out by thanking all our speakers who are here, traveling from many different parts of the world, whether that's India through Europe to the US. Many have actually been in Rio and Sao Paulo as well, and we know we've had a lot of exciting discussions. The format for today is we have two panels where we will be speaking with some of the top names from leading private, public, and government voices, spanning again Asia, Europe, and the United States, and actually global companies. And our focus today is discussing adaptation and enabling environment, especially financing for adaptation, which has to rise, and then the role of technology, AI, and digital in making things happen and taking things to scale. So we hope you're going to be here for the hour, and we look forward to starting our conversation with our speakers. So may I invite now our first panel, Matthias Fromeri. He's the Climate Ambassador, Ministry of Climate and Enterprise, Government Offices of Sweden. Matthias, thank you for joining us. May I invite Beth Bovis, who is a partner and the Global Lead for Sustainability at Carney. Thank you so much, Beth. May I invite Mansi Shah, who is a Senior Coordinator from the Self-Employed Women's Association, or SEWA, which is a major not-for-profit based out of India. So thank you so much. We will kick off, and maybe just to begin, if you want to, I know we have questions, but would appreciate if you want to give a quick introduction about your role and what you're up to at COP. So Matthias, we'll start with you.
Thanks so much, and thanks again for the invitation. Great to be here. So my name is Matthias Fromeri. I'm the Swedish Climate Ambassador and head of our delegation to the UNFCCC. So my role is primarily to lead the team in the negotiations, and as you know, we had an agenda yesterday, so we're getting started hopefully today with the various negotiation tracks, but also engaging with our pavilion and all our Swedish companies which are here just a couple of meters down the hall.
Thank you so much, Beth.
Hi, Beth Bovis. I'm a partner at Carney, which is a global consulting firm, and I have the unique role of both of leading sustainability internally, so trying to figure out how we meet our science-based targets and stay ahead of schedule, and in addition, working with our clients to embed sustainability in all of the work that we do, and really focused a lot on supply chains and sustainable supply chains.
Mansi, thank you.
Yeah. My name is Mansi Shah, and I represent the Self-Employed Women's Association, SEWA. It's the single largest national trade union of poor informal sector women workers in India. We have a membership of over 3.2 million women workers from the informal economy. These women are we call them the base of the pyramid. These are the waste collectors, the construction workers, the street vendors, the agriculture workers, and so on. Our members come from over 125 different trades in the informal economy, and across 18 states in India. And SEWA has been organizing these women for over 5 decades with the twin goals of full employment and self-reliance.
Thank you. Yes, CGI has been a strong partner of SEWA, and we've been working with Carney and the government of Sweden. So would look forward to kicking us off. So we want to start with financing for adaptation. So we're all aware at this point there's definitely been a pullback in terms of financing. Many parts of the world, definitely a stop or a pause for the near future. Geopolitics have also impacted climate financing. And increasingly, we see there is more which needs to be done, especially on adaptation with less. And I was just sharing earlier, like we are all experiencing what it feels like to be working in extreme heat. So, it's a very stark reality which many in the world face today. So I perhaps want to start with you from the government and policy side. You know, what, given the current geopolitics, the economics, everything that's going on, what are some short-term goals? I mean, we're pretty much in the midpoint to 2030, halfway there. What are you looking to achieve? What can be done realistically, in the next 3 to 5 years? Especially, let's say, at a national level, in places where national level is possible, but maybe also at the subnational or municipal levels. So, Matthias, if you want to kick us off.
Thanks, and I think you're really touching on one of the what will probably be a key topic for this COP. I mean, we see that many developing countries come to Belém with that request to be, posing exactly that same question: how can we increase the volumes of adaptation finance? And it just sort of give you briefly an overview of what we're doing from a Swedish side. We've been working to increase our climate finance generally for the past couple of years. So we've seen an increase with over 30%. We reached more than $1 billion yesterday, or last year, 2024, not yesterday. And about half of our bilateral climate finance is geared towards adaptation. And that sort of brings me to the second point, which I would want to make as well, that for us, when we speak about increasing the volumes of adaptation finance, we would normally say that sort of the single most efficient way to do so is to engage in those kind of dialogues which we have with our partner countries and prioritize adaptation in those dialogues. And that, of course, presupposes in a way that both we as a donor and our partners are prioritizing adaptation. So when we engage in our dialogue with our partner countries, we sort of try to see what would be our comparative advantages, what could we contribute with, and then also looking to, what are the priorities that our developing country partners put forward. And hopefully there is a match there so we can actually then be providing that kind of finance. And just to also maybe share a bit of a reflection from the negotiations themselves, because we often get stuck in various types of finance issues within the negotiations. And what we try to put forward then from the Swedish and an EU side is, the flows of finance will not be primarily determined by what we decide here. I mean, of course, we set top-level goals, but for them to be implemented, like the climate finance goal last year from Baku, but for them to be implemented, we need to work on a bilateral level and through the multilateral banks and through the climate funds in order to make that happen. So that there needs to be in some way a stronger connection, I would say, between the negotiations and the kind of top-level figures we set here, and also how we implement that in national context. And then in our case, working with our bilateral partners, making sure that we do prioritize adaptation finance.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is, always a point of check-in, but there is the work goes on throughout the years beyond the discussions and negotiations. Beth, if I may ask you from a private sector standpoint, again, you're a global company. What do you think are the policy enablers? What do you think is realistically possible?
So, I think there's like two parts of this question that I wanted to share. One is there's some places where adaptation just makes so much sense and we can make progress quickly. And I'm just going to pick one, and I'm going to talk about construction and buildings. We add 5 billion square meters a year of new construction in this world. And if we did that in adaptive ways, the overall total cost of ownership and the reduction in disaster and impact on humans who are in those disasters, and then financially on the insurance sector and the public sector would be amazingly changed. And this is where the technology exists. We know how to build more adaptive buildings. We know how to do that. And it's a matter of making that shift. The second is to build off of what you said. It's wonderful that 50% of your financing is going to adaptive. Globally, it's around 10%. And the reasons aren't because people don't believe in adaptation.
Meena Ben was able to access a loan from the Livelihood Recovery and Resilience Fund. She was able to restart her agriculture and build a roof on her head and avoid getting trapped into the vicious circle of debt and poverty. So this is the Livelihood Recovery and Resilience Fund that Seva has piloted, and we are trying to we are trying to replicate the impact of this fund at a global level with support of CGI by launching what we call as the Global Climate Resilience Facility for Women. It's a 50 million facility to reach over 0.5 million climate vulnerable women entrepreneurs globally, and the facility will seek to build climate resilience of amongst poor women in the global south, and it will seek to replicate and build on the successful models that Seva has piloted in the region. It will intervene a combination of blended finance and technical assistance support to enable sustainable and scalable climate finance solutions. Seva will serve as a founding partner as well as a technical assistant. And as Mayuri Ben was saying, the facility was announced by Secretary Clinton at a gathering of over 500 grassroots women in 2023 in the Little Run of Kutch. And we have been trying to pilot the facility for over 2 years now with several challenges. One is, as I said earlier, women are not considered bankable. So who would invest in a facility that is going to support women? What are the governance mechanisms? What are the measures? What are the indicators of success? These are all what would be the mode and methodology of lending, where the facility would be housed, all of these challenges, because Seva is not a financial institute. What we are a group of women who are facing climate challenges and who are trying to find innovative solutions, the learnings of which we can share globally so that women across the world, governments across the world can take up and replicate. Thank you.
No, so hopefully, when we launch, we will be sharing. And for those of you interested in learning more, please reach out to me or to Seva. We always try to make great things work even more. We're almost at time for this panel, so we all know that there's a role of a public sector, private sector, grassroots, and of course philanthropy for climate financing, whether it's catalytic capital, whether it's patient capital, long-term economic supply chain risk mitigation and response. What is one message that you would want to leave the audience with that they should absolutely, from your point of view, take away from a climate financing for adaptation specifically standpoint? 30 seconds each. Matthias, starting with you.
Well, from a government perspective, I think we all need to prioritize adaptation finance if we want it to flow. So both from sort of a government perspective, all countries, but also, of course, in our role as donors with our partners, that we do prioritize it.
And I would say, don't go it alone. So look left, look right, look up, look down, find people who will come together. And then I will also say this, no more pilots. If you're thinking of doing a pilot, somebody already did it. So collaborate to find out what they learned and do it at scale.
Thank you. And what I would like to say is that our experience has shown that, instead of us developing solutions for climate action and climate finance, if we support the solutions that women workers are making, it will naturally and most economy yet effectively bring women at center stage and enable far more significant achievements in the climate front. And as Mayuri Ben said, I would request all of you to have faith in the women who are the wheels of the pyramid. Come and join us in enabling and launching this climate facility for women. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Good luck with that. And let's have a big round of applause for our first panel. So thank you so much. Thanks, Matthias, Beth, and Mansi. We'll shift gears a bit. We've heard from, the government voice, the private sector voice, and an NGO voice on the importance of climate financing, especially for adaptation. We will stay on the topic of adaptation, but we want to look at another major enabler which has emerged and has always been there. But again, how do we mitigate risks but also maximize benefits? And with that, I want to invite our three additional speakers. So Kara Hurst, the Chief Sustainability Officer for Amazon. Thanks, Kara, for joining. John Colas, he's a partner and vice chair of Financial Services of the Americas and co-head of Climate and Sustainability with Oliver Wyman, which is part of the Marsh McLennan Companies, major insurance company. And third, Shubho Mukherjee, he's the vice president and global head of sustainability for Nokia. So, yes, please. Thank you all for joining us. Again, like, great to have you. This is a pure private sector voice, three voices and very, very well-known organizations with reach across the globe. Like, I don't know what we do without Amazon deliveries, and you know, many of us in the developing countries had our first phone, which was a Nokia phone, which I learned was, you know, there's much more beyond that. And then, of course, from an insurance standpoint, we are very aware of the financial services sectors and many others with Oliver Wyman. Perhaps, like, just to start, your own, you know, quick liner about what's exciting for you at COP, what has brought you here, anything which you just want to share to warm things up. Maybe Kara?
Oh, okay. I'll start. Well, it's very, very exciting to be here. This is my third city I've been in for COP, starting in Rio and then Sao Paulo and now here in Belém. So very exciting to see the COP in action. I have the pleasure of running sustainability for Amazon globally, which covers all of our businesses. So that's from our web services businesses and cloud computing and our retail business. We also have a studios business where we create content and shows. We have a healthcare business, a satellite business, so on and on. We're in many, many different industries, and a very large fulfillment and transportation network business. And one of the most exciting things that we have been transitioning in these conversations through our partners, both in the local leaders summit that I attended in Rio with many of the mayors and at the subnational level, and then our conversations, some with CGI as well in Sao Paulo, this is the implementation COP. And I think we are transitioning from, we have these very serious commitments. Ours is to be committed to net zero by 2040 across our global operations. But we are now very much in collaboration, focused on solutions, implementation, and getting to work on those solutions together collaboratively, as was discussed in the last panel. So I'm excited to share more about how we're doing that and how we're utilizing technology such as AI to accelerate that.
Great, thank you. Shubho, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you, first of all. Thanks for the invitation. And we don't make mobile phones anymore, so if you have one, just keep it in your pocket. What we do is we make communication infrastructure, so 5.8 billion people around the world use mobile networks that are built by us. More than 300 million households use the broadband infrastructure that's made by us. 9 out of 10 hyperscalers use the data center communication infrastructure that's built by us. But the reason I mentioned that is as we shift from this big intent to actions, which is the theme of this COP, what's increasingly clear to me and many of us in the communication, in the technology industry, is there is, of course, on one side, huge requirement and need for data and transparency, and on the other hand, things that can scale. We just talked about financing scaling in the previous panel. I would also argue that in terms of infrastructure scaling, we have seen that in the energy infrastructure. We've seen that in various other infrastructure. I'll put the spotlight on communication infrastructure, which we have considered to be given. Today, if your cat video doesn't upload in 5 seconds, you're upset. But at the same time, with due respect to cat lovers, and I love cat as well, but there are 2.6 billion people on this planet who are still underserved by broadband. And that provides a limiting factor for livelihood and for anything that is progressive in the era of this climate change as well. So my urge is to leverage the infrastructure that the world has built today. Think smartly, think out of the box. We clearly do not have enough capital to transition from the all that we would need from pledges to action. So think smartly in infrastructure. I would say think smartly in the communication infrastructure also as we accelerate in the AI super cycle.
Thank you. John, over to you. What are you most looking forward to or excited about for this COP?
No, thank you, Mayuri, and thank you to CGI for convening this excellent panel and session. I'm looking forward to the reference that Karen made, which is that this is the implementation COP. And as a management consultant, of course, the main thing that we care about is impact. And Oliver Wyman, as many of you know, is the consulting unit within Marsh McLennan. Marsh is a global professional services firm. It regroups a number of key players that are all motivated to help drive a commercially smart transition. So within our family of companies, we have Marsh, which is the world's largest insurance broker. We have Guy Carpenter, which is the world's largest reinsurance broker. And we have Mercer, which oversees trillions in terms of investment assets as a fiduciary. So all of us working together at Marsh are trying to help our clients deliver an orderly transition, to deliver one that's commercially smart, and to deliver one that, for all of us, we hope comes sooner than, comes as soon as possible in order to mitigate the worst effects of climate change.
Okay, so let's get to doing. I don't think any of us are debating the role of technology and AI, like, from uploading cat videos to watching streaming on, Amazon Prime, everything in between. But we do know, maybe many don't know, but the role of technology in terms of predictive analytics, which can help plan for, extreme weather events, which can help manage, like the first line of defense after a disaster is around communication networks, agriculture enhancement, water enhancement through precision agriculture, precision water. So there is a tremendous opportunity for technology to serve as an enabler almost as much as finance, especially in this day and age. So I have the same question for all three of you. How is each of your organizations investing in, technology or digital or AI for good? What are you most excited about? It could be from a mitigation standpoint, but prefer to hear on the adaptation side. What are you planning to do in the next 1 to 3 years, and where are you looking for more partnerships which you want to share out? So Shubho, if you want to start.
Sure. A lot can be said there, but I'll try to keep it short. In line with my previous comment about leveraging existing infrastructure, a couple of examples that maybe both did you share. First is, of course, mobile networks are all over the world in most places today. So one of the things we are trying to work together with a few members in the startup ecosystem. There are very exciting satellite-based startups that are out there today. We are trying to use a combination of satellite data on mobile GNSS and using real-time machine learning to understand the impact of weather change and reduce extreme weather forecast from several hours to few minutes. This is still this is at scale in many locations where you have a real robust 5G infrastructure. This is still not at scale in other economies, which is why it's important to build the foundational communication infrastructure. That's one example. The other example is quite that often fascinates me. I didn't realize this was possible. Is today, not to get too technical, but all around the world we have optical networks. Amazon AWS's data centers are connected to optical networks. These optical networks transmit bits and bytes. But only recently scientists, including scientists at our research centers, at other research institutes and NOAA in the US, have identified these optical networks have also sensing capability. So the same infrastructure that was used for a long time, for decades, just to communicate bits and bytes, can actually, with the next generation of technology and definitely using AI, can sense what's going on in their environment, which provides a huge opportunity, not just for us terrestrially, but remember, the entire world is covered by optical network subsea cables. We as Nokia have enough cables that have covered the world 6 times, and there are many other players. So if you can use those optical networks to sense the subsea aquatic, be it the quality of water or weather forecasting, it's huge. And of course, the role of low-band IoT networks in forest fire detection has been quite out there. We worked with California for several departments, and last year itself, we realized that there's connected to our previous panel, there's a huge appetite for the $17 billion California insurance funds to be able to fund these opportunities. So leveraging existing infrastructure, but also adding the smartness of the next generation of technology that we are seeing in the current development of AI can be a good opportunity.
Kara?
Yeah, I'd like to share a couple of different examples of AI across our business, and hopefully that will be relatable to people. Some of which you may be able to see in the world, and some of which would happen behind the scenes if you are a customer of e-commerce, like in our business or in others. One is that we are utilizing AI in our teams in sustainability to understand our own carbon footprints, the impacts of our products much more quickly, and to reduce the materials that we're using within our own systems. And I'll give you 2 examples of that. We have developed a tool called Rapid LCA, Life Cycle Assessment, in our business, which has taken, if any of you are familiar with trying to create the life cycle impact of a product, it used to take months, if not much longer, and thousands of dollars for a business to create this information about a product. So that's how the product's created, how it's manufactured, how it's transported, delivered, utilized by a customer, and what happens to it at its end of life. We have now reduced that from months to minutes. We can do an LCA in 17 minutes. We've done over 5,000 of them in the last quarter. So that kind of unbelievable rapid escalation of time and effort in utilizing a tool like Rapid LCA saves us a lot of time internally and provides new information. We've just published some articles about this on our science web pages, including how we're making more data sets available and hotspotting, what's called, where these hotspots occur in LCA. So that's one way that our science teams are using it. In our fulfillment network, we have 2 different things. One's called Packaging Decision Engine, where we are utilizing, and have been for many, many years at Amazon, utilizing AI and machine learning to make better decisions. Our associates make better decisions about the packaging they put onto items and make this more reduced, more refined packaging, so we minimize the materials that we use. We've been able to take out 4.2 million metric tons of packaging since 2015. So that's a reduction in material. It also means we can get more on trucks, which means fewer trucks on the road. We have another one called Private Investigator, which we utilize in our fulfillment network, which allows us to take out a product if it's damaged as it moves through the fulfillment network. So that means we're not shipping a damaged product to a customer. So that's a better customer experience, but it also means we don't have the impact of the reverse logistics if that customer tries to return the product, or we might not have them dispose of it in a way that's not recyclable or in a proper way. All of these things are applying AI in a way that's helping sustainability. But in community, we're also utilizing AI with our partnerships and in collaboration with NGO partners and around the world. And I'll give you 2 examples of that. In disaster relief, we've been partnering. There's been, obviously increase in wildfires, increase in hurricanes. And last fall, we were able to partner in the United States when a hurricane hit with the community. We have a disaster relief effort team in Amazon. We respond to many, many disasters around the world. And we were able to utilize AI to very quickly look at drone footage of over 28 square miles and provide that information. The drones mapped the area. We used AI to analyze those images, and we were able to very quickly feed that information back to our partner on the ground and tell those first responders where they were needed most. Also, equally importantly, where the areas were safe and unsafe. So that's information that's very important to the community. It keeps the first responders safe, and it keeps the community informed about what's going on. We're also partnered with the Ocean Cleanup and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch to help map information about where that plastic is floating, and to give them good information in quick amounts of time utilizing AI. So I could go on and on about the different ways that we utilize it within our business to benefit customers behind the scenes, to help our fulfillment associates make better decisions internally, to help our science teams make good decisions. But also, we're very interested in the collaboration that you mentioned about working with our NGO partners to utilize AI in community, and we'll continue to drive that.
Thank you. John, I mean, traditionally we wouldn't see, but I know there's a lot of tech and mapping work which has been done for the insurance sector. We want to.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayuri. I would comment that a couple things. One is, as advisors to industry, one of the things that we care most about is helping our clients navigate and thrive in transformative moments. So if you think about climate and the risks that are out there, it does present major transformative change for industry. And a lot of the work that we do is leveraging the data and tools that companies like Amazon and Google and others have producing in order to integrate that information into ultimately better decision making. So in the insurance space in particular, there's lots of opportunities to continue to build on geospatial data, to think about flood risk mapping, to be able to put out early warning, and to use those data sets in more creative and important pragmatic ways with regards to physical assets and management. So think about decisions that we've faced with Superstorm Sandy in New York. You know, we were clever enough to move the subway trains up to the Bronx out of the floodplain, but there are so many companies around the world that have physical assets on the ground that are mobile, and if we can predict the weather, as Karen alluded to, in advance and help those risk managers manage their physical assets, that changes their access to insurance, it changes their cost of insurance, and it's those insights that we really want to help improve risk management across the supply chain and across practitioners. So some of the examples beyond that I am proud to speak about that we've been working on globally as a firm is we're first and foremost sponsors of the UN Race to Resilience. So we really are proud of the work that is going on the topic of resilience. We're proud to see the emphasis on adaptation at this COP. This is the first COP to have an insurance house. I was at the first COP that had a finance day, COP26. So you're seeing the mainstreaming of finance into the climate agenda. And there we see lots of opportunities to continue to push on opportunities there. And there's just two I want to cite because we're here in Brazil. We've had the privilege of collaborating and supporting the Inter-American Development Bank and the Brazilian government and treasury in the design and launch of a blended finance facility, EcoInvest, which is here to help finance the ecological transition in Brazil. So that stands out where we're bringing our risk management knowledge, our modeling knowledge, and our consulting skill into the public and private sector to really help catalyze the transition. And then those of you who read the local business paper, we're referenced on the front page today of Valor in a program that we've been working with industry in Brazil to really think about infrastructure and logistics and adaptation plans across the country.
Great. A good segue to the next section. So, you know, we're talking about the enabling role of technology, and you all represent different facets of that. We know that there's always some potential risks with that, which can be proactively managed. And Kara, I'll start with you. Given the giant that Amazon is, data, we know AI depends on data. Everyone's been talking about data centers. They are needed. At the same time, we know data centers, you know, have the huge consumption of energy, water for cooling systems, and so on. But you just can't do with it. So what, as a responsible business, are you doing to mitigate that proactively? What can others in the industry learn from you?
Yeah, it's an extremely important question. So I mentioned a lot of the things that we're utilizing AI for, but of course, in the framework of how do you start by reducing your impact to begin with, we are building more efficient data centers than we, you know, every year than we have the previous year. And that is an incredibly important part of this equation. So from the energy that we utilize, we had set a goal many years ago to run our operations on renewable energy by 2030. We are the largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy in the world and have been for the last 5 years. We are now also including nuclear in that carbon-free energy portfolio and have done several nuclear deals from small modular reactors to other types of efforts that we're participating in because we need carbon-free energy. But we are also building more efficiently. So looking at the building materials with better steel, green steel, and better concrete. We have a collaborative concrete initiative that we've established, operating more efficiently. We also have a goal in our Amazon Web Services business to be water positive in the communities where we operate by 2030. So what that means is where we have data centers, we will return more water to those communities where we operate by the year 2030. We are 53% of the way already towards that goal. We have many good partners that we work with around the world. And we utilize AI in some of that. As an example, in Scotland, we utilized AI and a system called FlowMS to find leak detection. Because that is one of the biggest issues that you have in a lot of water issues, and that has saved us 8 to 9 million gallons a year in that project. So I think this idea of building more efficiently, we also have chips that we utilize, Tranium, that are our own chips, Tranium and Graviton, and Graviton is 60% more efficient as a chipset, and our data centers as a whole are 4.1 times more efficient than on premises, and the workloads that go on them are 99% more efficient, again, than on-prem data centers. So being on cloud is much more efficient, and then building these data centers as we have done we're looking at energy efficiency, we're looking at better building materials, we're looking at the energy that we use, and we're looking at water consumption. We publish our water use efficiency metrics as well, and we're leading in the industry on that. We put all of this out in methodologies that are public. We get all of this data assured. And so we are trying to also, I want to emphasize the collaborative nature of this. We're trying to share as we, as a big business, move ahead and learn and test and utilize these materials, what's working. And we have something called the Amazon Sustainability Exchange, where we put out our buildings playbook. We have now open sourced that formerly proprietary material and put it out publicly. There's seven different sections of that Sustainability Exchange where we publish information about what we're doing, and have invited other companies to do so as well. 40 other companies have also put their materials on there. So this is something where we go together, we go faster, and collaboration is the way to go. The last point I'll make in this is we have, I mentioned before, a goal to be net zero carbon by 2040. We established this with the Climate Pledge in 2019, and we've had over 600 companies join us, 100 just in the past year. So I say that to also push on this narrative that people are pulling back. They're not. When you provide solutions and you provide technologies and you invest in them and help people to move faster, they want to address the climate crisis. They want to move faster. We just need to do this together, and we need to push faster, and we need to invest. And I think everyone in this room would agree with that. But I want to make sure that we're speaking that loudly and clearly.
No, absolutely, and that's the intent. Even if you're not talking about it as much, just making sure things are moving, things are happening. There's a reassessment, and again, we very strongly believe there's a major role of business to play going forward. Same question to you, Shubho, from a Nokia standpoint. Of course, telecom is a big enabler, first response and everything. But telecom infrastructure itself is vulnerable in terms of climate shocks, whether it's a fiber optic cable underground, extreme weather events. So how are you investing in digital resilience?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to say is going to be complementary to what you mentioned, Kara, and that is no surprise to any of you, because that shows that all of us in this room have a role in collaboration, including organizations like yours, Mary. So obviously climate adaptation and resilience is fundamental to our business. First thing first is about our own operations and in our value chain. In our scope 1, 2, 3 absolute emission, we have reduced our emission by 36% since our baseline year for the past 5 years. We still know there's a lot of work to do to get to our 50% reduction by 2030 and then net zero by 2040. And the reason I mention this is on one nicer day, you wake up and say, okay, we're not doing that bad. 36% in 3 scopes is good progress. But on the other hand, as we go to the second half of this decade, we also see that on one hand, there is the disaster-related infrastructure damage is increasing. Obviously extreme weather events and other things. So existing infrastructures are getting affected. On the other hand, there is the huge opportunity of the AI supercycle. All of this puts strain in existing infrastructure. So the way we look at this is, first, how can we help reduce the footprint of AI infrastructure through communication? And there I would complement what Kara mentioned, that a big focus here is to make data centers energy efficient. That's our job. And I'm glad to hear and follow all the progress in the renewable energy transformation that you are doing, Kara. So what we are squarely focused on is how can data centers be smart going forward? How can data center designing be smart? So for example, today we know data center designing is often limited by energy, land access, as well as access to broadband infrastructure. Even if you have energy access in one part of the country, sometimes you do not want to process the AI data there because you want simultaneous, low latency, zero loss transmission of that data to other parts of the world. So that's our job, to be able to offer a fabric of this kind of communication infrastructure so that energy access and AI processing can happen in a more meaningful way, so that we are building smart infrastructure as we go forward. This is not just about US. This is also about, across the world, we are working with hyperscalers, the data center providers across the world, including countries who are just coming up to speed, like India, Saudi Arabia, where new data centers are coming online. And equally important to do so by moving the processing to the edge, so that countries in Global South, like African countries, are being able to use the power of AI, not relying on big data center build-up in large cities, right? So that's one part of it. The other quick part, I would say, is what we like to call is the handprint of AI and communication infrastructure. As we all know, there is a huge role of energy transition, and energy companies and energy utilities do get efficient and get better with the usage of communication infrastructure and AI. I could cite examples, but we don't have time. But we all know how different energy companies have got efficient, and in their own renewable energy and clean energy transformation, the role of technology cannot be underplayed. So it's kind of paradoxical situation, which one comes first. Hence, it's important to use the existing infrastructure and selectively add on the value of new technologies like AI.
Thank you, and good to hear the complimentary. So my question to you, John, is not exactly going to be about technology. Like, it would be remiss to not ask about insurance, having you in the panel. So it's the same, like, perhaps paradoxical situation where insurance is supposed to be mitigating risk. We know the risk is in any case increasing, whether we're talking about floods and whether it's at a corporate level or people level. So there are changes in terms of underwriting, policy limits, and potentially withdrawing from high-risk areas in many cases for the insurance sector. How are you trying to manage, and what are you seeing in the industry? What would you push for so that there is still the insurance sector, which is needed perhaps even more, while we know that the risks are rising?
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayuri. I would maybe first come to the comment on data centers and then talk more broadly. So one of the things that we do is we have a team of what we refer to as site engineers. So if you think about what the site engineers do, is they will visit a data center or review the plans of a data center and look at the attributes and the construction plans in order to sense whether climate has been captured in those plans. And if you're building a data center, you obviously want it to be resilient. Not only do you want it to be resilient, you want it to be insurable. And you want it to be insurable over the long term. And so one of the value adds that Marsh McLennan brings in that exercise is to send out the risk engineers to look at those sites and to make sure that the characteristics and plans that are in place are already contemplating and reflecting climate in that effort. And what I would say more broadly then to your question is, in terms of the role of insurance, we have to really look at this as requiring a whole mindset shift across the chain. We can't just leave the risk there and say, well, the insurers should take the risk. Actually, it needs to be built into the design process, the engineering process, the material selection, the site selection, and that's really where we're able to have influence in that dialogue with the marketplace. But one firm is not going to be enough. It's going to require that continuous pushing and change in mindset of building in resilience and adaptation plans well ahead of time, and that will be a much more resourceful effort and use of the world's capital.
Thank you. We're, again, like a great discussion. I'm sure we could continue with many more questions and you'd have many more examples to give. But interest of time, same question to all of you. What's the one final message you want to leave this group with if they were to really make this the implementation COP and take things forward? So, Shubha.
Think out of the box. Don't try to do everything by yourself, and leverage existing infrastructure and leapfrog.
I would just reiterate the need to work in coalition. There are so many people who are already joined up around sustainable aviation fuels, green concrete, zero emission maritime buyers alliance. Whatever industry you are in, there are people working together already. So reach out, ask the questions, and I think you'll find people are more than willing to share what's working and what's not. And if you haven't gotten started, it's not too late.
And I would like to underscore a couple things. One is, as Karen said, this is the ultimate collective action challenge of our time. And I believe we can rise up to meet that. The one little factoid I think is interesting to note. Last year, the world had approximately 380 billion in losses in terms of natural disaster, weather perils, and climate-related costs. Only 60% of that was insured. And so we really talk a lot about the insurance gap, but in the end, we need to bend the curve on both. We need to bend the curve on emissions so that the total losses come way down, and we need to think about building in adaptation plans and resilience from the get-go to reduce the risk of things remaining uninsurable. So those would be my closing remarks.
Well, thank you so much. You know, we hope the audience got a bit of a preview and sneak peek around how adaptation and the financing, and then of course a deeper dive on the role of technology. So thanks again to everyone for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of the day and rest of the half a week, full week, or 2 weeks at COP, and then have safe travels back. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.